The first time he touched me, it wasn't the kind of touch that made you lose control. It was the kind that made you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. His fingers brushed against mine as he handed me a book I had dropped, and for a second, the world around me went quiet. The sound of traffic faded, the air felt heavier, and I could hear the quiet rush of my own heartbeat in my ears. It was strange how something so ordinary could feel like the beginning of something I didn't understand yet. He had a way of looking at me not with desire, but with understanding, the kind that said he saw the chaos I tried to hide beneath my calm. He asked questions that went beyond small talk, questions that made me look inward. And each time he smiled, I felt a warmth that wasn't supposed to be there, like sunlight sneaking through a closed window. I told myself it was harmless, just connection, nothing more. But connection can be a dangerous thing when you've been starved of it for too long. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself anticipating the moments when our paths would cross. His words began to linger, echoing long after the conversations ended. It wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. Softly, intentionally, like he was trying to fix something inside me that I didn't even know was broken. I laughed more around him. I spoke without measuring my tone. I started remembering what it felt like to be seen not as someone's responsibility, but as someone's heartbeat. One evening, the sky was painted in deep purples and fading gold, and we sat quietly beside each other. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was heavy, full of things we didn't dare to say. When his hand brushed mine, I didn't pull away this time. The warmth spread like fire under my skin, and the air felt different, thicker, charged. His thumb traced the lines of my fingers slowly, as if memorizing them. It wasn't lust. It was something deeper, something that hurt because it wasn't supposed to happen. When he leaned closer, I could feel the breath between us, uneven, trembling. My heart ached in a way that words couldn't hold. It wasn't the kind of pain that came from distance or rejection. It was the pain of wanting something that felt too big for the space it was given. His touch didn't just reach my skin, it sank beneath it, stirring every memory of what love once felt like. It wasn't the size of his hands or the strength of his grip that left me breathless. It was the weight of everything we couldn't say, pressing into the silence, inch by inch, until I could no longer tell whether the ache was from his touch or from my own heart breaking open again. The room always seemed smaller when he was in it, not because of the space, but because of the silence that followed us everywhere. It was the kind of silence that didn't demand to be filled. It breathed on its own, thick and alive. Sometimes, when our eyes met, I could see it there, the hesitation, the line neither of us wanted to cross, but both kept inching toward. I told myself I wouldn't let it happen. I told myself I was stronger than my heart. But desire isn't loud, it's quiet, patient, and it waits until you're too tired to resist. There were days when I avoided him, pretending that distance could dissolve whatever it was building between us. I'd throw myself into work, into chores, into anything that didn't remind me of him. But then I'd catch a scent that felt like him, the faint trace of cedar and rain, and suddenly all my defenses would crumble like sand. It wasn't just attraction. It was a pull that came from someplace deeper, somewhere reason didn't exist. The night it happened, there was no plan, no deliberate choice. Just two people standing too close for too long, both too scared to speak and too afraid to walk away. The air was cool, but my skin burned where his breath touched my neck. I remember his voice low, uncertain, saying my name like it was a question he already knew the answer to. And in that single moment, the world shrank down to the space between us. I didn't think, I didn't reason. I just felt. His lips barely brushed mine, soft at first, hesitant. It wasn't passion that hit me first, it was regret. A deep ache that spread from my chest outward, like a bruise forming under the skin. Every second carried 1,000 what-ifs, but I couldn't stop. It was as if everything I had buried, every emotion I'd locked away, had found its way out through that one kiss. It wasn't about him. It was about the loneliness that had been living inside me for years, finding somewhere to finally breathe. When it was over, I couldn't look at him. My hands trembled, not from what happened, but from what it meant. I felt both alive and hollow, like I'd just been reminded how it felt to feel, and immediately punished for it. He didn't speak either. His silence said everything mine couldn't. The guilt came slowly, not as a sudden strike, but like water seeping through cracks. I could feel it filling every space inside me, mixing with the memory of his touch, until I couldn't tell the difference between warmth and shame. That night, when I was alone again, I touched the place where his hand had rested on my arm, and the ghost of it lingered. It wasn't passion that haunted me. It was the tenderness, the kind that shouldn't have existed, but did. The pain that followed wasn't sharp. It was quiet, steady, and it lived beneath my ribs, a reminder that sometimes the deepest wounds are the ones carved by what we wanted most, but were never meant to have. Rain fell that night like it had been waiting for a reason. It tapped against the window in slow, rhythmic beats, each drop echoing the uneven pulse inside my chest. The scent of wet earth mixed with the faint traces of his cologne still lingering in the air, a ghost of what had happened, of what shouldn't have. I sat there in the dim light, fingers tracing the rim of a coffee cup gone cold, and felt the weight of everything we'd left unspoken pressing against me. Every sound, every memory felt sharper, louder, as though the world itself had leaned in to listen to my guilt. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains, slicing through the gray haze that had settled in my mind. I stared at my reflection, eyes swollen from a night without sleep. There was no glow, no thrill, no satisfaction, only a quiet ache that refused to fade. My lips still remembered the shape of his name, and my skin still held the faint warmth of his touch. Every part of me felt divided, half drowning in the memory, half desperate to forget. I wanted to wash him off me, but some things don't leave when the water runs. They cling to the heart instead. Days blurred together after that. The world outside went on as if nothing had changed, but inside, everything had shifted. When I saw him again, it wasn't like before. There was distance now, a carefulness in the way he spoke, an apology in every glance. His smile was softer, almost sad, and mine didn't reach my eyes anymore. We spoke in half sentences, in looks that lasted too long but meant too little. It wasn't avoidance. It was mourning for something that had never been allowed to exist. Everywhere I went, I saw reminders. A song in a cafe, the scent of rain on asphalt, the color of the sky before sunset, all of it carried pieces of him. Sometimes I'd catch myself reaching for my phone, fingers hovering over his name, before I'd stop and pull back. The heart doesn't forget easily. It replays moments until they no longer feel like memories, but like punishments. I learned that longing has its own rhythm, slow and cruel, and it plays louder when silence surrounds you. At night, when the world quieted, I would close my eyes and see his face in the dark, not the version that hurt me, but the one that made me feel seen. The sound of his laughter still echoed faintly somewhere inside me, soft, warm, and impossibly distant. I missed it more than I wanted to admit. It wasn't the passion I longed for anymore. It was the calm that came with being understood without words. That was the part that broke me the most, knowing that what once made me feel alive was the same thing that left me hollow. Some nights I would lie there, listening to the rain, and imagine what it would have been like if we had met at a different time, in a different world, where love wasn't a mistake and comfort didn't come wrapped in guilt. But reality has its own cruelty. All that remained now was the echo of his voice and the steady ache of remembering a tenderness that refused to fade, no matter how much I wished it would.